1, 2, 3, 4.
Screen time, screen time, screen time, screen time.
It's my screen time too.
Screen time.
Hello, and welcome to It's My Screen Time Too, the podcast where we review the programming the other critics ignore, stuff made for kids. Find out what to watch for family movie night, what to avoid altogether, and what you'll want to watch alone voluntarily. I'm Deborah.
And I'm Katie.
And I have a 14-year-old and two 11-year-olds.
And I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Welcome to a Screen Time in the News episode for the week of May 15th, 2024.
Deborah.
Yes.
So there's this little show called Bluey. I don't know if you've heard of it, but people go crazy for it. And I'm not talking about kids. I'm talking about parents. Preschool parents rhapsodize about this show. It gets reviews and think pieces in all your major news outlets, your New York Times, your Vultures, what have you. If you can go there and read a review of Succession, chances are you can also go there to read a review of Bluey. And I think that's largely the reason we haven't reviewed it on our show, right? It just never seemed to need a boost.
Right. People knew about it. People were watching it. But the time has come, finally, to address the blue healer-shaped elephant in the children's TV landscape. People are panicking that the show's April 14th episode, titled The Sign, will be the show's last. So we had to take a moment to talk about what this show has meant to kids and parents and what the TV landscape will look like without it.
So it should be said right off the bat that there has actually been one additional episode of Bluey since The Sign first aired. But it is pretty clear that it's the ending of the season, and there's still not a clear path forward to next season. We read an article from Vox from April 18th about Bluey, but as usual, there's been a ton written here, and you can find articles all over the place about it. So my first question for you, Deborah, because we haven't covered this show for the podcast, is have you ever watched an episode of Bluey?
I have not. I have meant to, but all my time watching kids shows is devoted to things we watch for the podcast pretty much.
Right, of course. Did you have a sense of its place in the zeitgeist among preschool parents?
Oh, I knew it was popular.
Right.
Totally.
Because you read all the same publications. We exist in the same media bubble. So
yeah,
you've been seeing all these stories. Well, this is great. I'm glad we're finally sitting down to talk about it. Bluey has been kind of peripheral to my kids growing up because they just haven't attached to it. They're happy to sit down and watch an episode or two of Bluey, but it hasn't seized either of them in the way that makes it appointment viewing for the whole family, which is something I feel like it is for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It is really one of those rare shows that everyone can enjoy. And the elements of it that feel for grown-ups don't feel forced or added in. They feel very organically still part of the story. And that's the best way I can think of to describe it. So you made note of a notable factoid from the article, which says in 2023, Bluey was the second most popular streaming show in the U.S., where it was watched for 731 million hours. What? That is a lot of time. Are you surprised?
A little bit, just because there's so many options for kids shows. But I think people still like to watch what their friends are watching and what their other parents recommend to them and what they hear that like their cousin likes and stuff like that. So I think it seems to me like a lot of Bluey's success was word of mouth. Like I don't think it was entirely like a big marketing budget.
I think it depends, too, on your consumption of linear TV. Because Disney Junior is the one that aired Bluey. And if you're one of those families that just flips on Disney Junior or Nick Junior, you're like either exposed to it or you're not. Like if you're a Nick Junior family and you're watching the Paw Patrol, like there's a good chance that maybe Bluey kind of passed you by. I feel like that's what happened to us, kind of.
Right.
The article mentions that Bluey's creator might be burning out and running out of inspiration as his kids get older.
So it kind of reminds me of the Keith Gesson book, Raising Raffi. Remember we read that article about him teaching his son to play hockey a while ago? So I read that whole book recently, and there was this line from the book that just really gets me. Quote, "I think now that there is no tragedy like the tragedy of parenthood. There is no other thing you do in life only so that the person you do it for can leave you. When they leave, that is success. When they do something because they want to do it and not because you want them to do it, then you have done your job. You succeed when you make yourself irrelevant, when you erase yourself."
I'm not crying. You're crying.
I know, right? So, like, it kind of, I don't know, like, being a parent, you go through all these milestones, like, to have your child, like, gain more and more and more independence. So it just seems like kind of poignant that this like beloved TV show, beloved by parents and toddlers and preschoolers, might be ending. Although if you are a parent, like that's not how you shouldn't just like let something mysteriously fade away with like a lot of questions and not a lot of concrete stuff. You should be like, this is when we are moving. This is the date. Let's count down. These are the things we're doing. Like, I feel like Bluey isn't leaving kids and parents with like the tools that they are going to need to cope with the loss of Bluey.
That is interesting. So you feel like a television show owes its younger viewers that sense of closure.
Yeah, or else people are just like wildly misreading the plot of this one episode.
I actually sat down and I watched it in preparation for this episode, and I missed a lot in between. Like, I haven't watched all the episodes of Bluey, but I sat down and watched The Sign, and it was indeed very sweet. I did not quite cry happy tears like the author of the article we read today did, but it was like a lot of Bluey in that it teaches preschool lessons in a similar way that a show like Daniel Tiger might, but without the obviousness, you know?
Yeah.
It's not all about giving the kids the tools to get through, say, a family move. It is also about exploring the deeper meaning behind that and what it means to have an attachment to a place. I don't know where I was going with this, other than to say, did I feel like it was a fitting ending to the series? No, but I did feel like it was very of a piece in the way it treats those major life events. Very of a piece with how the show has done it throughout its run.
Okay,
so see if you can come with me on this one. I think there are two schools of thought here. You can keep the IP rolling forever, like Paw Patrol, or if you're really desperate to like keep that magic, you keep trying and failing to recapture it. And here I was thinking specifically of the Muppets franchise. Like that was like this beautiful, perfect idea that had so much success, and they keep trying to shove it down our throats again, and it just keeps not working. So does Paw Patrol continue to deliver a consistent product? I would argue that yes, it does. But it never had as much to lose. Like, no one was ever lauding Paw Patrol as this great piece of art.
Right.
So I can definitely see how a show like Bluey that has been so beloved and has been so consistent and has been so special wouldn't want to just keep churning and churning and churning, because there's going to be some dilution there.
Yeah, I really should watch it so I can get a sense for it. It sounds great.
I can send you a selected list of episodes, as can most of the internet. So on our show, we try to find the things that grown-ups can cling onto to make TV and movies that are not often made with us in mind bearable to watch with our kids, because we know that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Bluey doesn't need you to go to any extraordinary lengths to find something to enjoy as an adult. That just seems like simultaneously precious and precarious. I can just totally believe it's hard to maintain over time. Anyway, lighthearted question. What shows or products or places have ended and left you feeling bereft with an empty hole in your heart, Deborah?
Okay, so 6 Feet Under is still probably my top favorite TV show ever, but they did the ending in such a way that it felt very complete. And like, I was sad when it ended, but I didn't feel like I felt like it came to a good conclusion. That's what I would like from a show that's supposedly as good as Bluey. But some things in my life have ended all too abruptly. Like there was this makeup that I used to use. It was like an Almay compact, and you opened it up and it like the makeup like lived on a sponge inside the compact, which like
Seems gross.
seems gross and like you shouldn't use liquid makeup in that way, but I did and I really liked it and it was very effective and it had sunscreen in it and I used it for many, many years and then like all of a sudden it wasn't in the store anymore and I realized it had been discontinued and then I bought like as many of them as I could on Amazon at a markup. And then when those ran out, like I still have them, like they're empty, but I still have them.
You're
'cause
like,
liked
can I
that
inject
product.
another foundation into this sponge?
Oh, ew, that would be super gross. It's probably filled with bacteria, but that's one thing in my life that has not lasted, and it makes me sad.
I love your idea that television shows owe it to us to provide us with a satisfying ending because I'm not going to lie, I want every TV show and a lot of movies to end with like the picture and the this is what they're doing now at the end. Like it's just
like a documentary.
it
Yeah.
very much appeals to me in that way. I went to see The Boys in the Boat, which was George Clooney's latest, a while back, months and months ago. And it was based on a true story, a very popular nonfiction book, and yet they chose not to do that at the end of the movie. And I felt very betrayed.
Yeah, that's a bizarre choice.
Well, George Clooney really has some hits and misses in the directorial department. Well, I think obviously this means that people should subscribe to our podcast and listen to reviews about what shows and movies to watch with their kids because now they have this hole in their heart from Bluey.
Obviously.
We can fill that hole, listeners, and the answer is Puffin Rock with a side of Dora and the Lost City of Gold.
So general catch up, do we have time for that?
I think so.
What are your kids watching or what are you watching with your kids?
Well, sadly, they're not watching Bluey. I can't seem to get them interested in it. They're both going through a little bit of a I don't want to watch shows about girls phase, which I don't love, but I'm sure is fine. They're just still loving Phineas and Ferb right now, and I am also still loving Phineas and Ferb to the point where I don't even mind that we're now constantly listening to the various soundtracks in the car as well as watching it when we're in front of a TV. There's just a lot of Phineas and Ferb content going on.
This is not for kids, really, but I've got a 14-year-old and he's been watching Fallout.
Is he liking it?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Are you watching it too?
He watched it with Jeremy, so that's maybe their thing. And then I want to watch Knuckles, which just came out, the 6th episode. Like, he's the friend of Sonic. And, like, even if it's bad, I feel like a 6-episode limited run of a series I can commit to.
Isn't it funny that we live in a world where children's TV shows have 6-episode limited runs? Like, did you
Yeah.
ever think?
No.
Here we are saying that 3 seasons of Bluey is too few, and where is our never-ending churn of Bluey content? And yet we still have prestige kids TV being released in 6-episode blocks. It's wild. It's a wild time.
What's on your watch list, your personal watch list?
We finally finished The 3-Body Problem. Ended really
Okay.
satisfyingly. I would recommend that. We just started Ripley, and we're only like 2 episodes into it. I know that's been out for a long time, but we're just on a slower time scale. We also have been experimenting with Netflix comedy specials, which is a real mixed bag. But we recently watched Sheng, Wang, Sweet and Juicy, and it was hilarious. My husband, after the fact, referred to him as a clean comic, which I guess looking back at it would be true, but it's not something that like hit me over the head as we were watching it. I just thought it was a real delight.
I watched that with Jeremy on your recommendation, and I loved it too. I also have another comedy recommendation. I watched Hannah Gadsby's Gender Agenda, which is like a little variety show of a bunch of comics. And I kind of like the clean comic because when it gets really bawdy, I get kind of uncomfortable. And there was only one comic in that whole lineup that was pretty like a little bit too bawdy for me.
That was the funny thing about the Sheng Wang special, right? Because he was introed in his special by Ali Wong, and you see Ali Wong and you think there's going to be some raunchy stuff going down, and then there wasn't.
God, when he did the thing about like the dipping the pump stick into the lotion, oh, that's so relatable.
Yep, felt so seen, so seen.
And I'm looking forward to the Sympathizer, which is probably already on HBO Max. It's based on a book by Viet Thanh Nguyen that I really liked.
Anything else on your list?
That's it for now.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Screen Time in the News episode. Next week, we'll be back with a review of the new movie, If. If you enjoyed our show today, see what I did there? Please recommend the show to one friend you think would enjoy it too. We love growing our community of parents for sanity and screen time. Tune in next time for more real talk about the movies and TV we watch with our kids because we have to, and sometimes because we like to. Bye!
Bye!
Screen time, screen time, screen time.